6, a helping hand with your land.
Neil from Essex here with a Kubota M6 141. This is the largest tractor in Kubota's M6 line, sporting the largest diesel engine that they make. We're going to do a quick walk around this machine here. We'll show you some of its features and benefits. In the M6 series, we have tractors from about 100 to 141 horsepower. All the horsepower numbers that are used here in the model number are the gross engine horsepower. So this machine has 141 gross engine horsepower and produces about 114 horsepower back at the PTO. The engine under the hood here is Kubota's 6.1 liter engine. It is the largest engine that they make. This engine is also used up into the M7 series as well. So producing 141 horsepower in this case is not near the upper end of what this engine is capable of. Kubota has this thing tuned clear up to 171 horsepower in some other applications. Being that we are now a Tier 4 final, in this horsepower class, DEF fluid is required on any tractor. And you can see the large muffler canister over here where the DEF fluid is actually injected into the exhaust stream. Over here on the other side, you'll see the blue fuel cap that most people are used to seeing by now. Over on the side, we've got fills for both our diesel fuel right here by the door, and also for blue DEF right here by the door as well. Generally in this kind of stuff, most guys are used to seeing this by now. DEF has been used on this size equipment for a long time now. I can say there's always some trepidation that we hear from people about emission systems in modern equipment. To be frank, a lot of the problems that we've seen from emission systems in cars and trucks have not carried over into tractors. Because we tend to run tractors at load and they're producing heat, that's really how those emission systems are designed to function. So in tractors and big equipment like this, we have not seen the problems with emission systems that we've seen in on-road trucks. When we have had problems with these, and they're not perfect, most of the time it's come from situations where an operator is running the revs really low, putting the tractor around and never getting the thing hot. The emission systems in these things are all made to be run hot and with heat and at high RPMs. The thinking behind a lot of our equipment has changed from years gone by, where we used to think that running an engine slow would save fuel, and in modern engines now, running with revs at higher speeds gets the hydraulic systems and the emission systems and all the systems in the tractor working and operating like they're supposed to. We're not even necessarily burning more fuel either, because the fuel demand in an electronic engine like this is delivered depending upon the torque load and the needs of the engine for work, and not necessarily just the need of the engine to move the pistons really fast. So my recommendations to people getting in engines like this and tractors like this: run at 50% throttle or above for most of the applications that you're doing, at least some of the time. It doesn't mean you can't ever idle your tractor, but things are going to work best and the most efficiently at some kind of RPMs over about 50%. Take a look down here under the hood with me and we'll check some of the serviceability points here in the engine. If we flip the hood up, we can see, like on most Kubota tractors, the battery, probably the most common thing you go to underneath the hood, is right here in the front. So really easy to get to if you need to service it or jump it for some reason. The air cleaner here is a large Donaldson air filter right on the front. Has a little knobby thing here on the bottom you can squeeze to drop the large bits out. Back around the side here, we can get back into the radiator stacks. Everything for coolers, for AC condensers, hydraulic coolers, engine radiator is all right here in the front. You can see them all stacked together. My one complaint of things I think it could be a little bit better would be these are plastic screens right here that you can pull out. They're floppy ones. I tend to prefer to see the metal ones that slide in and out. That would be one thing there could possibly be a little bit better. But one thing that is cool if we come over here to the side is that the whole air conditioning condenser and everything slide right out the side, making that really easy to get to. So if you need to change that screen out or anything, it's very, very simple, even with all of these things stacked together like this. Other common things would be things like your engine fill and dipsticks, which are located right back here on the side. They're not too hard to get to. And really, when I tend to see guys work in the shop on this kind of stuff, usually like the loader would come off, and oftentimes they'll remove the hood if you're able to do that easily. That's done with just a couple of quick pins there in the back, and by doing that you can really get to absolutely everything. Back around the side here, you can see that there's a fuel filter with a big reservoir down here in the bottom to make it really easy to see if you've got water, something in there, fuel, if you see a line start to develop in here. All those serviceability things are right there on the outside and easy to get to. Oil filters, for instance, or that's a fuel filter rather, would sit right up here at the top. So Kubota tends to do a pretty good job of keeping all the things that you need to change out, your serviceability items, on the outside of the engine. So simply by flipping up the hood, you can get to all the important bits that you need to touch on your tractor. One thing we typically point out when going over a tractor is to take a look down underneath the machine and look for low spots or things that we're going to hit or potentially break off in some kind of rugged application. Being that this is moving up into a true agricultural tractor now, it's clear that that has kind of had eyes on it from an engineering perspective. When you look across the underside of the machine, there's nothing soft at all that really sticks out that could potentially be taken off. One cool feature here that's on these tractors that we're going to demo here a little bit later is bi-speed turn, and you can see that right here on this sizable front axle. Right up here on the top there's a little cam with a sensor attached to it, and when the tire turns to an extreme steering angle like this, it trips this sensor off and actually shifts up the front tires into a higher gear, making the front end of the tractor pull around, giving you a much tighter turning radius. And we're going to have another video on exactly how that feature works. We tend to sell most of our M6 series tractors with loaders equipped on them. Primarily for us, Kubota machines tend to go into either haying or loader applications. And the loader application in particular is one place that Kubota machines typically really excel above a lot of other competitive tractors. This is Kubota's LA2255 loader. At full height, this thing is at over 140 inches. So it's a very high loader. If you're getting up to stack bales of stuff up into a second and third tier, it's going to give you a lot of height and a lot of reach. One cool feature that Kubota puts on their loaders is this selectable pin right here. The cylinder, the lift cylinder on the loader can be pinned into one of two different places. In this higher hole right here, it gives you about an extra 13 inches of lift height, or by dropping it down into the lower hole, it will give you a little bit more capacity. So you have the choice to choose whether you need the height out of the loader or not, and can choose that for capacity instead. So that's a really simple thing that I think is really cool. On this series of loader, you can choose by either a standard skid steer coupler, which is how we tend to have most of our tractors come through, or a Euro coupler as well. When you get into applications that you're really lifting a lot of weight, you can start to reach the limits of what the skid steer coupler is engineered for, and this tractor does kind of sit right at that cusp. So you can make a choice of skid steer buckets or Euro coupler buckets, just depending on what other implements you may have in your fleet and how you see yourself using the machine. The back of the tractor sports a lot of the things that you'll find in deluxe machines. So we have a valve stack back here on the back. 2 valves come through as standard equipment. 2 more can stack on top of here as well. We tend to order most of ours through with flow control already installed on them. This tractor has an open center hydraulic system, and so by having flow control, it gives you the ability to dial in the proper hydraulic flows that you need for your implements a little bit more effectively than simple valves that don't have a flow control system on them. You'll notice here the hydraulic cylinders in this are all external cylinders. They're not reliant on a rock shaft or something back in the tractor in order to lift. That takes a lot of the lift and strain off the inside transmission pieces and moves them here to the outside. Or if you do have some kind of issue in your lifting system, you don't have to split the tractor to get to it. All the lifting and working pieces here on the outside of the machine. There is also a high lift kit too that you can swap these cylinders out for larger ones if you have some really extreme demands for your 3-point hitch. But as is, I believe these have right about 6,500 pounds of lift capacity, so it's a fairly capable tractor as is. On the linkage for the 3-point hitch itself, it has all the deluxe things that you would expect to see. So extendable link arms here by pushing down the tab here and being able to extend the arm out. Pins in your sway bars as opposed to turnbuckles, and ratcheting adjustments over here to set your leveling. So all the deluxe 3-point hitch features that we expect to see in a good tractor. As years have gone by, Kubota's cabs have gotten progressively more spacious, and you can tell that here in this tractor. So in this size machine here, we've got ample space in here for things like buddy seats. If you look around here at the glass, you get one large glass panel the whole way around to the back of the machine, rather than having posts and stuff here in the middle that block your view when looking out the side. So that's nice. All of our armrest controls over here have most of the things that you're going to use frequently. So the up and down controls to shift your power shift, engine throttle, throttle presets, 3-point hitch controls are right here on the armrest. There's some adjustability in this armrest as well in order to put it in a comfortable position for different operators. So if you plop down in this seat and it initially doesn't feel like it's where you want it to be, it can be moved around. As we go back here through the rest of the machine, we'll see our air conditioning controls, power sockets for both standard 12 volt and a multi-pin over here for precision guidance monitors. There is an optional monitor bracket here that can go across this door in order to mount baler monitors on and that kind of thing. My valves for my first and second SCD are right here. If I want to add additional ones, they can go back in this pocket here. I've got a bunch of electronics and stuff down here across this plate and also up here on the display itself. And one of the things that I appreciate about the electronics in this tractor is that they aren't so complicated that you got to break out the manual every time you want to figure out how something works. So as I work my way across here, I have work lights, options for automatic shifting, an engagement for an electronic governor so that when the tractor loads up, it can throw fuel to maintain PTO RPMs. And then a series of dials down here around the bottom. And these dials are really controls for an auto shifting function that will, when I get to the end of my, my headland and my load comes off of the tractor will then shift up 3 gears or shift down 3 gears when you go back into a draft application. And you could do most of those settings by adjusting the sensitivity of the motion of your 3-point hitch and the draft control settings and stuff right here on the side. So these dials largely relate to that function. Over here on the screen, I have a whole bunch of different features that I can show as well. And this, like I said, is a screen that you can figure out without an owner's manual, which is really nice. So if you look at the screen here, I have a 1 through 4, and these 1 through 4s just correspond to the different buttons, or different positions rather, of this screen going down the side. So I could press 1 up here at the top to toggle the display of this different information. So right now I'm showing PM, my particulate matter, and my DPF up here at the top. I've got my PTO RPM showing here. I've got the number of gallons per hour of fuel that I'm showing, and I've got a clock. If I've got a light on down here at the bottom, it means I can push that button in order to change something. So I can push my clock and hit my button, turn it into the date, right? Fairly simple and easy to use. Those 1 through 4s, you could go through and choose what you want to display there. So by pressing this green button down here in the corner, I can then go across and choose, say, row number 1. And now I have a series of screens here where I can go through and pick different data points on the tractor. So if I hit here to go to my different pages, I can see different RPMs, PTO RPMs, different fuel displays, the percentage of power, my PM use, all those things just by paging through this. And then I can go through and pick exactly what I want to display and then show, for instance, my miles per gallon right up here at the top. So fairly easy, and like I said, that's really all this thing does. It can give you a lot of information, but isn't so gosh darn complicated like a lot of the big monitors that you'll see in tractors that require a lot of knowledge in order to find the things that you want. The transmission in this tractor is a 24-speed power shift, and that means that you could shift through 8 gears at a time without clutching or stopping the tractor or doing anything. You simply push buttons to go through 1 through 8 in order to shift your gears. Of those 8 gears in the power shift range, there are 3 different ranges. So I have a high, medium, low over here on my main shifter. My main shifter has a declutch button over on the right-hand side to clutch, and then buttons over here in order to change gears as well. So I can go through my power shift gears by using either the buttons up here or the buttons on the armrest. In order to change directions, I just have a simple direction changer up here to go between forward and reverse. All of this is done under power, so it is a power shift transmission. So if you have a draft load or something behind you, as you shift gears, the tractor is not going to stop. It's under power the entire time as you cycle through all of your gears. One thing that I think is really interesting is that this transmission was actually designed by one of the prior presidents of Kubota. Ken Cattell, the president from a couple years ago, gentleman who's still active in the company, actually designed this power shift transmission. So I think it's really interesting to see that a lot of the engineers of this company are the guys that run it, which is one of the things I think is really unique about Kubota. So I have a couple of controls across the dash here as well. I have a button right up here at the top in order to engage my diff lock. If I move down here, I can use lock my 4-wheel drive in or switch to an auto 4-wheel drive that turns on when it detects wheel slip. And this button down here will engage the bi-speed turn system on the tractor. So we'll demo a little bit later exactly how that feature works. It is something that's awfully unique and not seen in a lot of other machines. Up here on my stack, I also have my windshield wipers front and rear to turn those on and off. If I was the engineer of this tractor, I would have put my 4-wheel drive here and my windshield wipers down here. But that's me, maybe something for next time. This tractor does have a simplistic emission system on it, so if you need to bypass regen and you don't want it to go through a burn cycle, you've got one button up here to override a regen happening, and another button up here at the top in order to kick off a parked regen if you want the tractor to regen while it's sitting still. So there's really only those two controls right there for the emission system. By and large for these things, when you want to go work the tractor, you turn the key and go. Some of the early tractors had a lot more stuff to worry about with emissions controls, and these don't have most of that anymore. You can see here in my cab as I work my way up with my loader in the up position, you're always going to come up to this point where you hit the headliner and you can't see your loader bucket anymore. But this tractor does have an additional window up here in the top that allows you to be able to see up through that, to be able to see exactly where your load is at. If you're placing things, you know, your view is not obstructed simply up here by the post that runs across the top of the roof. You can see up and through it. Okay, so we're going to do a short driving demo here in the M6 141. Let our parking brake off. It's a hand parking brake down on the floor. And I'm going to slide back here into medium range. Like I said, this is a 24-speed power shift, so there's 3 ranges with 8 gears. I've got a little Kubota hay rake behind me here that we were just moving around the other day. So we're going to pull out here from our parking spot. So if you've ever driven a power shift before, it's very easy. A power shift is literally what it sounds like, right? The transmission shifts under power, so when you want to shift gears, you just have simple buttons to press. There's no clutches to play with or anything like that. You just push the button and it goes. When it shifts under power. So if you have a draft load or something behind you, or you're going up a hill, there's no point where the transmission is disengaged that the tractor is going to slow down or stop for some reason. As I'm going along here on my main stick over here on my right hand side, I've got shift buttons on the stick, and I've also got shift buttons back here on my armrest. I can use either ones to change. I also have a declutch button here to change ranges. So right now I'm in medium range in 8th gear and I want to go faster. So I can hit the declutch button on the stick, push forward into high range, and the tractor is going to jump into high. And you see when it did that, it went from 8th gear in medium to 3rd gear in high. It's speed matched. So it doesn't go to 1st gear in high. It basically keeps you right about the same speed if you just hit that while you're going. When you hit that declutch button, you are not under power at that point. So the range changes are not under power, but all the gear selections are. As I'm clipping along here, I've got all my other controls for my driving and everything up here on the dash. So right now I'm in 2-wheel drive. I'm going to hit auto 4-wheel up here. And I'm also going to engage my bi-speed turn. I've got some tight turns up here once we get up here into the parking lot. So that bi-speed will help pull my front end around some of those tighter turns. One of the complaints that I would have with this tractor, when these come from Kubota, out of the box, these gear changes are a little bit firm for my liking. And you can't dial that adjustment here from any of the screens. If you've ever driven one of these M6 frame tractors, or the 135 before it, or any of those variants, and you find the power shift is a little bit too firm when it shifts gears, you can have a mechanic hook up to the tractor with their laptop and dial those settings in to soften them up a little bit so it doesn't grab and go quite so hard. My buttons for my power shift, I've got throttle presets up here, the A and the B right down here on my armrest. Right there is a low preset, A is a high preset. Usually you would use these to set different PTO speeds. So your 540 or 1000, you'd set a preset for, so when you're going to go to the field, you can just tap that and go. I also have a throttle up here on the armrest as well, so I can dial that up and down. And then one of these will override the other. So if you hit the preset and you want to lower your throttle back down again, you just bump to the electronic throttle, and then it goes right back into its place. When you go to change directions, you don't need to use the clutch on these. They are hydraulic shuttles. You just throw the shuttle one direction or the other, and the tractor just comes to a slow stop and then changes direction and goes. As tractor cabs go, this thing is quiet. You wouldn't have to crank a radio or anything like that to drown out the engine noise. It's really easy, even with this thing at full revs. It's a full revs now. I think from the specs, full revs is only about 2,200 RPMs. Like I said, this engine has headroom, so it's not winding out or anything at high speed in order to hit the horsepower it needs to. As I'm working here, if I needed to operate a rear remote, my rear remote valves are right over here to my side. Really easy just to reach over to. My loader valve is right here. If you've seen me review tractors before, my pet peeve with loaders is being able to find the sweet spot where the loader goes up and I can go to the side in order to find level. I don't have a bucket on this one, so it throws things off a little bit, but by and large, the way that Kubota loaders are plumbed, they have a little bit larger sweet spot for finding that level position than what some other machines do. So that's a Kubota M6 series tractor. If you have any questions about this machine or you're in the market for an agricultural tractor, give us a call at Messick's. We're available at 800-222-3373 or online at messick's.com.